Welcome, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Nick at Night. I am honored and have the privilege of welcoming to the stage. We have Candace Hunt with us, and we also have Sharonda White. So we just
Oh,
want to join them, and we're going to start doing some cheering and some clapping, y'all. Welcome them to the stage. Awesome, awesome. Again, I thank you, ladies. If you want to give an introduction, tell us about, your business or where you come from, whatever you want to say, you're more than welcome to before we get started.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick, for having us today. I'm super excited to engage in what I believe is a really, really important discussion, especially in our community. I am Candace Hunt. I like to introduce myself as the CEO of Candace Hunt Enterprises. I spent so much time of my life kind of under the guidance of others and living others' dreams and all that.
Hmm.
And probably about 3 years ago, when I started my own mental health healing journey, I started to realize that I was in charge. Now, God is the head of the board. I've got a
mhm.
Hmm.
community that's the board
Amen.
of directors, but I'm the CEO of Candace Hunt Enterprises. I'm also a co founder at 5 Minute Career Hack. We are a career consulting and business consulting firm, and we help you pivot in your career, your company, and your confidence. And I'm also the mother to Riley of Riley O Designs and Levi Jackson, who is a movement all by himself at 6 years old. So again, I'm excited to be here on with you all today.
Awesome. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to do my little cheer. Hold on. All right, all right. Sharonda?
Hi, I'm Sharonda White. I'm been in Austin now for 6 years. I've been working in mental health now for going on 7 years. I'm a wonderful mother to three adult sons, Jacoby, Costin, and Brashan. I also own a business called JKB Notary Group, where I'm a notary for the company. It's a new company.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, just me starting out, kind of like Candace. I'm the CEO of myself, learning to heal through all different types of situations. And I'm just glad to be on this side versus the other side.
Amen,
Awesome.
amen.
Amen.
Let me give you some cheers. Hold on, hold on. All right, let's get into it, ladies. So, I want to ask, so the stigma around mental health is gradually diminishing for some, but there's still a lot of work to be done, right? How can we continue to break down barriers and encourage open conversations about mental health? And this can
I can
be
go through.
a shared experience or personal.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't mind going first. So, no, I would 100% agree. I mean, there's definitely still barriers that need to be broken. And as someone who is not a mental health expert, but just have lived experiences that has pushed me towards studying more about my mental health and kind of understanding my behaviors and the behaviors of others, I think that the number one thing that we could do is share,
Mhm.
share, share, and share vulnerably. So that's why when I saw the topic of this conversation, I was just like, yes, if there's any platform where we can tell our stories,
Mhm.
that could, because somebody out there listening can relate to it or is sitting in their house right now that may be ashamed of something that happened to them or they think they're crazy because they might be having a mental breakdown. I hope that this platform shows them today that they're normal, and
Mhm.
that we are in this thing together. So I think sharing and sharing vulnerably, and it's just a little bit from me in regards to this. So I decided back in 2020 that I was going to share with my family that I had been sexually abused as a child. And it
Mhm.
started at the age of 6, right? All the way up until I was
Mhm.
12. And I
Mhm.
held it in for 30 years, right? Holding
Yeah,
in that kind of
Mhm.
pain for 30
that's a
years
lot. That's a
out of
lot.
being
Yes.
embarrassed, wasn't sure if it was my fault. I can't tell you the amount of anxiety attacks I had that I told nobody
Mhm.
about. And so that
Yep.
level of struggle,
Yep.
sometimes we feel like we got to go through that alone.
I think we
But
you
God put
froze a
us
little
here on.
bit. There you go.
Yeah, so that level of struggle, sometimes we feel like we have to go through that alone, but God put us here to do life in community with other people. And so shared that with my family, but it wasn't just the, oh, I'm going to share it and then all of a sudden I'm healed. That was just the
Mhm.
start of a
Right.
journey where I was like, okay, well, now I got to heal before I can even share it with people. And so I'm going to end with this. When I just kind of wrap the point up, I spent a lot of time even after I came out to my family, still being quiet, right? Just going through my journey alone, not talking about it with others. And I was going through this like internal battle with myself of, I know I'm supposed to be sharing this because there's somebody else in the world that's probably going through this and will hear my story, whether it's on social media, some stage, some podcast, that can know that they're not alone and there's a path to healing that they can start to embark on. But I think it's important for us to start by sharing with others vulnerably,
Mhm.
without fear of embarrassment, without fear of people thinking something is wrong with you, or that even the trauma that we experience was our own fault. That's sometimes what we do as well. So for
Mhm.
the third time, share, share, share.
Yep. And I just want to piggyback off of what you said. I commend you, first of all, for sharing your story,
Yeah,
a very personable story, and for holding that in for so long. I think our generation, we were taught, not to say anything, to keep everything, it was kind of like what happens in the house stays in the house.
that part.
And
Mhm.
you weren't
Yeah.
allowed to speak on it. And even just mental health, you had the crazy aunt or the crazy uncle. It was just like, oh, they're just different from us, but don't tell nobody, that they crazy.
Right.
And
Mhm.
so
Mm-hmm.
I think that comes from just our generation and how we
Mm-hmm.
were just told to keep things in and not
Yeah.
say anything. So again, I commend you for that. And then also my other podcast I did the other day about knowing your worth, I
Mm,
speak on knowing your worth. And I always feel like when I present that to people, if I've touched one person and sharing my story, I've done my job, right?
mm-hmm.
And so when you say share, share.
Mm-hmm.
I'm shaking, I might be crying, but I'm still getting, it out, which is a healing in itself. Crying and speaking
Absolutely.
about it is also healing, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Um, and to have someone come back from the audience and say, "Hey, I can relate," or
Mm-hmm.
"Thank you for sharing. I have the courage now, to to share with my family," or whatever the situation was that kept them back from holding it in. And so definitely creating that safe space. I
Yes.
think I mentioned on my introduction, this is a safe place. I
Yes.
want
Yeah.
people to know that they are heard, they are seen, and they're valued. And that's how I treat all the people that come across me.
Yeah.
I think that I've met one person, that didn't, I don't want to say didn't like me, but for whatever reason, you
Yeah.
know, it was something to where we connected
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
was able to share my story and they were able to
Yeah.
share theirs and we helped each other and we, healed
Absolutely.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a journey we got to embark on together, to my point. And you're so right. I just want to kind of underscore that point around um us keeping it in. It's a generational it's a trauma response that's passed down from generations.
Yes.
And so
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
talk about that often, and I always use the term, I say this with love and grace, right?
Mhm.
Um, I always say I say it with love and grace because I know that my family did not mean to harm me. They didn't wake up and go, "Oh, we're going to tell you these things because we don't love you, or we're going to tell you to keep it to yourself, family business, stay in the house." It wasn't because they didn't love me. That was
Right.
how they learned to live. And you see, I have a 8-year-old daughter, and I always
Mhm.
say she is going to do what I do, not what I
Mhm.
say. And so
Exactly.
when you see and you witness people in your family that are masking their own pain or being the
Mhm.
strong Black woman or trying to
Mhm.
keep up the religious front so everybody
Mhm.
can think that y'all are good, then that's what I'm going to naturally do. There's another
Right.
one that we probably will talk about, which is around that being emotionally responsible and being emotionally and psychologically safe as a child, that, kind of
Right.
puts us in those positions. But I
Mhm.
think the behaviors are modeled, and then we learn it from generations, and then we respond by doing the
Mhm.
same thing.
Same
Yep.
thing. Exactly. Exactly. And just with even like with men, and this kind of ties into mental health too. Like men are brought up, not to cry and to be strong and
Mm,
to suck it up and like you said, they hold it in for all these years, and they become an adult, and they're like, well, what am I supposed to do with my emotions?
mm-hmm.
And it's so much built up after all these years. They don't know what to do when it releases,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
some are suicidal, and some it's not good for them. and
Right.
and so I think that'll be another topic I want to do on Black men. But
No, absolutely.
We definitely
Yeah.
need that.
Oh yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep. Did you want to add anything, Sharonda?
Well, I just wanted to say I think a good thing that we need to do is, like she said, share, but we need to be able to talk in the home.
Mhm.
I
Mm,
was always raised that take it to God, take it to God, take it to God,
that part.
Mhm.
instead of, some type of therapy. And when I had my children and they had some issues going on, it wasn't nothing where I feel like it was complete mental health, but just kind of like a redirection in life or
Mhm.
whatever. You
Mhm.
know, my co-parent was telling me when I wanted to take my son to therapy, my co-parent was saying no, 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 he doesn't need it.
Mm,
But
Mhm.
I feel like it helped a whole lot in the process.
Mhm.
And me
Mhm.
myself, just
Mhm.
expect everything to flow, but I mean it brings a lot of issues because now you have somebody else you have to think about.
Mhm.
So throughout
Mhm.
all the years now that I work in mental health in a hospital where I see young and old,
Mhm.
my take on mental health is I feel like there is nothing wrong with getting therapy. There's
Right.
nothing
mm-hmm.
wrong with medication. There's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with crying.
Right.
It's okay to be not okay.
Exactly.
So I feel like we really need to get away from, especially in the African American community, away
Mhm.
from let's just go to the church and it's going to be okay. We really
Mm-hmm.
need to seek help for our people, especially our
Mhm.
young kids, because they're going through so much.
Mm-hmm.
You'll talk about that too, with like the social media and different stuff like that. And
Mhm.
our kids need therapy. Our adults need
Mhm.
therapy. Our men need therapy. Our men need to
Mhm.
be loved, but they
Yes.
also need to seek therapy.
Mhm. Yep. Amen.
Amen. Yes.
Yes, and I think too, therapy was kind of like the bad word, like growing up.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
was like only crazy people go to therapy,
Hmm.
Well,
and so I think, when you said your co-partner was like against it, I'm kind of going through the same thing for my son. It's grief counseling, but it's counseling.
Hmm.
And, it's like, no, we all need to come together. He needs grief counseling, and that's what's going to happen.
mm-hmm.
I can tell him so much, but I don't know what he's feeling inside,
Mm-hmm.
and a professional is the only person that can do that. I can't do that. I can give him the mommy support and love that he needs, but a professional can get what's really deep down inside, out of him, that can help him
Mm-hmm.
cope with day to day. This was the first grief he's experienced. He's 16. I don't know what to do. The first grief that I had was I was 6, and I hadn't had any since, I'm 48 now. Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing been, so I don't know, what to say, what to
Right.
do, like, and I
Yeah.
think too with social media,
Mm-hmm.
there's so many apps and filters and, this, and the kids get caught up into that, and that drains their mental health. Oh, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
pretty enough. Oh, I'm not smart enough. Oh, I'm not skinny enough. No, boo. We love you all the ways.
Yes.
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 And
All the ways.
the grief counseling he definitely needs because me myself, I lost my mom in 2014 and the
Mhm.
grief is still there.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So it
Mhm.
it's almost every single day that a tear want to fall. It's
Wow.
every single day that I think about her. So I mean, to see my life change from there to now, like it's a
Mhm.
big deal. So I feel like when
Yeah.
you're grieving, you never know when it's going to come up. So you definitely need someone
Yeah.
standing behind you. And people tell you
Yeah.
all the time,
Mhm.
I'm here for you, I'm here for you, but they get tired of hearing you,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
So I feel like
Mhm.
That's a
that's where the
word.
counselor and
Mhm.
stuff comes in to help with the grief process. So I tell
Yeah.
Yes.
anyone, if you
Yes.
need it, if you need the medication, go get it. Go get it.
Get it. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think too, like you said, people, like you said, they say, well, what do you need? And sometimes the people that they don't know what they need, you
Hmm.
know, for
Yep.
you, it could be, your mother's smile or your mother's scent or, something there's of a memory of in passing, you can be on your way to work and it stimulates that, and that feeling that you have. So
Yeah.
no one can do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Never.
yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that. Yeah, yeah.
You're welcome.
Did you want to add something, Candace?
Uh-oh. You all froze for a minute, but can I add just
Uh-oh.
one thing real quick, if I
Sure, sure,
may?
sure. Of course, of
Yeah.
course.
So first of all, Sharonda, I mean, excellent point on like you can't pray away your
Mhm.
feelings and your emotions. You have to actually
Mhm.
deal with them, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
I am absolutely an advocate for therapy. And I think sometimes we look at it as, first of all, look at what we call it in our community. Sometimes we call it a shrink. Sometimes like the word has a negative association with the word shrink when we refer to therapy, but
Mhm.
sometimes we
Mhm.
just leverage it reactively. And I'm
Mhm.
a proponent of it needs to be proactive as well. I actually think that everybody in some should go to therapy at some point in their lives because they
Mhm.
don't know what they may go through that may they can get more prepared for the hardships or the traumas that they may
Hmm.
experience by going to therapy. And I think that it should absolutely start at the childhood age. My daughter is 8 years old and she goes to therapy. And when I tell you it's increased her confidence, it's increased her emotional awareness so much
Mhm.
that even when she goes through things, she's like, oh, okay, so my therapist said I should. And I'm over here in the corner like, yeah, yeah, like that.
I
That's
know.
that's what I want to hear. And then at the same time, I'm a little envious, like, man, like how far would I
Right.
be in my life
Right.
if I had gone to therapy at 8? Man, I'd be like,
Girl.
again, I appreciate
Girl.
my journey, it's my story, but I think it should be proactive. I saw this meme the other day, and I don't know if you all saw it, but I had to repost it, and it kind of came across as a little drama. But I was like, I don't care, I'm just gonna post it. But it said I have to go to therapy for the people in my life that won't go to therapy.
True.
Mm.
Right.
True.
And
And
true.
I saw that, and I had to sit down. I was like, whoa, this is deep, but
That's
it's
deep.
so
Yep.
true. And
True. Mhm.
so we could choose to be upset because that's the case, or, and this is what I ended up just putting in my caption, we can choose to go out in front and start our own healing journey. So when people are ready to start being reactive in their
I
therapy,
think
those
we
in your
you
community, in your
froze.
life. All right, can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Just say
So
your
we can
caption,
choose.
what you put in their caption.
Yeah, I put in my caption that sometimes we have to go out in front and start our
Mhm.
own healing process without
Mhm.
this expectation that those around us who may be the ones who caused our trauma, we can't expect them to go on the healing journey with them. And we
Mhm.
also cannot try to bring them along in the journey. When I went to therapy, I'm like, I'm not going to therapy for my mom and for my dad. I'm going to therapy for me. So whenever they ready to go to therapy, then I've gone out in front in the process and I can support them better where we're all
Mhm.
not trying to overcome this pain together.
Right.
But again, it's definitely this stigma around something's wrong with me, so I'm not going to go to therapy, or we quietly talk about it. Or the
Mhm.
person who
Mhm.
had, I remember when I was a child, it was a church friend who had a nervous breakdown. I'm not going to say her name, but every time we talked about her, it was, this is so and so. You know, she had that nervous breakdown, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Hearing that my entire life, when I had a nervous breakdown, I was like, okay, like I'm scared to say something.
Right.
And then I had to
Mhm.
free
Mhm.
myself from that of I'm just human. I had a lot of my therapist had to do a lot of work and massaging on me, but being free from what others are going to think about my journey because
Mhm.
I am doing this for me. I'll get up there and when they catch up, I'll be a little further along where I can support them, but it's got to be proactive and reactive.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Good point. I like the fact that you mentioned, like you said, they can't come with you.
Hmm.
You know. Uh.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Girl, tell me what
Yes,
you
it
want me to
is.
do. I
Yes,
don't
it
know.
is.
You go figure
Yeah.
it out. Like
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. 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 And the fact that you have friends who bring you into their drama, and it's kind of like you said, I'm not going to therapy. I'm going to therapy for somebody else's stuff. You know, like why?
But
Like,
I feel like sometimes they put it on you so heavy that
Hmm.
you're like, is it me or is it them?
I'm up thinking
You're
about your situation. Like you taking up my time. Like I
that's what
can't
I'm
go to
Hmm.
saying. Like,
sleep because I'm thinking about your stuff.
Hmm.
yes, or you trying to help them along the way, but you're drowning yourself. You know,
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
so you got to
Yep.
have a kind of like a balance in there in between that.
Hmm.
And
Mhm.
Hmm.
me myself, that's like when I ended, my introduction. I'd rather be on this side than the other side because I was closer to the other side,
Hmm.
3 months ago. 3 months
Mhm.
ago, it's a chance that I couldn't have been on this podcast because
Mhm.
I was thinking that was my only way out, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
was taking my own life. And if
Mhm.
people look at me, people that's around me, people that deal with me on a daily basis, probably never
Mhm.
even noticed that it was
Hmm.
Mhm.
going on,
Yep.
because I hid it so well. I
Mhm.
Hmm.
came
Mhm.
in, I was doing what I needed to do,
Right.
but then I thank God, first of all, but I thank God for planting my son with the strength of him being healed himself. And him talking to his mother every single day and, speaking for
Mhm.
me to admit, to one of my strongest supporters that, you know what, I have a problem. I have something
Mhm.
going on. My mental health is it's not good right now.
Mhm.
I've thought about, ending my life,
Mhm. Mhm.
for them to embrace me and say, it's okay.
It's
Whatever you
okay.
need, if you need the help, if you need the therapy, if you need the medications, go get that. Sometimes we need
Mhm.
a reset, you know,
Mhm.
Hmm.
because every
Mhm.
day is not going to be a good day. So we got to figure out how to navigate through the day without that being the end and goal.
Right.
So I just
Right.
tell people now, even like being a mental health tech, daily on my unit, I tell them it will get better. Look at
Hmm.
me. I can't physically
Mhm.
tell them that yes, I was where you were, but it will get better.
Mhm.
If you put in the work
Better.
and you trust God and you have some type of faith and you get the help and you get the medications that you need, it will get better. Tomorrow is better.
Mhm. Mhm.
So to see
Yep.
me here today smiling and happy and starting my business and doing everything that I feel like that God is planting for me,
It's awesome.
I'm glad that he loved me enough to give me another
Hmm.
chance.
Mhm.
So we definitely need to be
Mhm.
in tune to our feelings and what's going on.
Like I'm
Hmm.
gonna give you some claps for that. Amen.
Yes.
And I
Thank you.
appreciate you sharing your story. And like you said, people don't know what's going on inside. You can show up for work and be perfectly fine, but inside nobody knows.
Hmm.
You know, you were thinking that, or you were contemplating that. And so even
Hmm.
like I think the um the dancer from Ellen, Twitch, I think
Hmm.
his name was,
Twitch.
Yeah.
smiling, dancing every single day. You never would have thought that that's was, in his heart. That's what he wanted to do. That's what he felt he needed to do. And it's like, what does mental health really look like? Because people can hide it so well. And they
Hmm.
say, oh, well, check on your people and check on your strong friends. But it's like, what? I'm not a professional, but it's like, what do you say? In those
Mhm.
moments where they were like, oh, well, I had a bad day. Or if there's even a little suspicion of, I feel like they are thinking about it even. Like, what do you say? Like, how you stay connected to say, well, there was a sign, and not get to that point where, there's absolutely no sign. And I think that happens for a lot of people that have followed through. Um,
Mhm.
there's no sign. They could be normal as ever, you know, and
And then
um, I
tomorrow
think
and the next
how we
day they're
get
feeling
there.
lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah,
next day
yeah,
you're
yeah.
lost and you're wondering, because you can't come back from that, right? Once
Mhm,
you go there,
mhm,
you can't come back from it. So the
mhm,
thing is, like you was talking about checking on your strong friends and different stuff like that. Like it was really truly like three people that was really helping me fight through the trenches through it.
mhm,
And I
mhm,
just
mhm,
like I said before, if it wouldn't have been from for them and God, where would I be? Because
mhm, mhm,
Mhm.
people go, "Oh, she's fine today." They see this face, they might, I'm
mhm,
gonna use you as an example, Candace. They might see Candace and she's strong and she's happy and she's doing what she needs to
Oh.
do. She's the best mom ever. But
mhm,
then
mhm.
sometimes
Yeah,
they people going home and they're drowning, whether it's in debt,
Yeah.
whether it's in relationships, whether it's in their job itself,
mhm,
and that's the
mhm,
part that people don't see
mhm,
or
mhm.
some people can't relate to because some people
True.
go home
Mhm,
and everything is fine,
mhm,
but
mhm,
there's the people that go home and it's not.
mhm,
Mhm.
mhm. And I
Yeah.
think too, social
Yeah.
media has played that part of like everything has to be perfect.
Yes.
Like you said, the school, the work, the job, the husband, the family, everything's perfect from what we see. But what happens behind that screen, behind that lens,
Mhm.
Hmm.
the truth, right? You know how growing up, well, I'm gonna call my parents out. They would only clean when company was coming over, right?
Mm.
So it was like, hurry up and clean because we got company coming over. And it's like, what? Why don't you clean when ain't no company coming over?
Yep.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
that persona they wanted the social media look like everything's perfect when it wasn't, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
No, mm.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt at all.
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, so I false narratives.
Mm,
That's what that sounds like. The story
mhm,
that we want other people to think about us, and that's the
mhm.
one that we put out there. So I often refer to it as the Facebook post because when I look back pre 2020 and probably even a little bit of 2020, 2021,
I think we
the
got you
stories that I
frozen
was,
again.
oh no.
Okay. We
All
got you
right.
back.
Yeah. So 2020, 2021, and even everything before that, the stories that I was posting, the pictures that I was posting, the smiles, the here's my perfect family, not nobody knowing that I needed to get a divorce, right? But I was
Right.
putting this narrative out there because I cared what other people
Mhm.
thought
Other
about my
people.
situation, and I cared so much about what they thought. I was denying my own humanity and I
Mhm.
wasn't living a life of authenticity. I spent a lot of time talking about authenticity and shattering those false narratives, but it's so dangerous to do that because I feel like we're all role models, right? So when we
Mhm.
do it, then we're telling everybody else that it's okay to put these false narratives up there or put the Facebook post, the lying Facebook post. Anytime I get a chance to challenge somebody who does it, I like to take the opportunity. Like, I'm challenging you because I know that's not true what you posted up there. And it wasn't even for you, it was for them. And you need to go, so we just have to be so careful of that because it's actually what keeps this cycle of external comparison and not being focused on your mental health. It keeps that cycle going when we get so caught up in social media. Sometimes we'll have like somebody will ask, like, how's so and so doing? You saw 15 posts she put on social media. So now you're assuming that this is what her life is. And sometimes it's
Mhm.
absolutely not true. Don't speak about me unless you have talked to me and I have shared with you. So that
Share it
means
with
you had to
you.
create space for me. But we're in an area, it actually worries me for the future, where it's all about what you post and your reel and your
Mhm.
filters.
Yep.
And it
Mhm.
actually makes me a little nervous for future generations. But I can only
Mhm.
I can talk about it loudly so people can hear it, and then I can control my community, right? My community,
Mhm.
and make
Mhm.
sure I share with them and challenge them the way they need to be challenged. But definitely a dangerous
Mhm.
area.
Yeah. 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 Yep. Yep. Let's see. Let me try to find another one. So what do you guys think of the perception of mental health today? Do you think people have a grasp on it? Do you think, it still needs to be out there, front of face, top of mind? What do you guys think?
I think definitely it's people see it, but I feel like more money should be spent in it. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that we need to put like more ways to help people with mental health. From you know,
Mhm.
Candace was saying, her daughter goes to therapy now at 8.
Mhm.
Let's start them out young. Let's
Mhm.
figure out a way to where if the families can't afford it, they can still get some type of therapy. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
that people need that.
Mhm.
Working in the hospital, I used to work with from 5-year-olds to 12-year-olds. So can you
Mhm.
imagine a parent, a 5-year-old being taken from their parent due to the mental
Mhm.
health issues that they're having in the home? It's
Mhm.
only temporary, to kind of get medications, get some coping skills and different stuff like that. But I just feel like it needs to be other ways and money needs to be spent to
Mhm.
where it's not necessarily that is, because then we have the issue with pulling the child away, putting the child back
Mhm.
into the home,
It's the
separation
home.
issues and different
Mhm.
stuff like that. So I
Mhm.
feel like that we just need to put a lot more resources into the mental health as young as possible
Mhm.
and figure out a way for, it to be taken care of, not so much as like it has to be a fee. Let's figure out some more groups. Let's figure out,
Mhm.
some type of
Mhm.
ways to get parents and the child in together, family sessions. Um,
Mhm.
I've learned that in the family sessions that sometimes when the child have a safe space and they have their therapist there and they're
Mhm.
able to communicate with the parent, the communication is totally different.
Yep.
Now, let me
Mhm.
say this. I feel like some
Mhm.
of the issue is the parents
Mhm.
because guess what? We're some of those broken parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Let's just be honest with ourselves. So when
Mhm.
some of our kids come to us and they have a mental health issue, if we don't understand it, we're like, "Oh, you're just playing. Oh, you just want attention." No, they need help. But I've
Mhm.
noticed that sometimes that the family sessions between the therapist and the child and the parent, it allows the child to have a safe space to be able to express
Mhm.
themselves about the home, whether it's the
Mhm.
home is right or not. If the
Mhm.
parent is coming home and basically just not listening to a kid, I had a kid a couple of years ago that said all they wanted from their parent was for them to talk to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Conversation.
Mhm.
Conversation. And you know
Mhm.
what? When I look back on myself, because I was a single mom with 3 young men,
Mhm.
which was boys at the time, but I worked a lot. I
Mhm.
worked a
Mhm.
whole lot. So do you
Mhm.
understand how much I actually missed in just conversation?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we need to figure out a way to come together and get it back out there, bring families together to figure out a way
Mhm.
to be able to communicate better in the home, to try to give them different type of skills. Maybe taking the child out, once every 2 weeks, because I
Mhm.
understand that money could be an issue, but you could
Mhm.
take them to the park. You could maybe save up if you're working a whole lot or something. If you could save up $10 and y'all just go get an ice cream. Just
Mhm.
different
Yep.
ways to come together to help these young people to get better and not depend on TikTok and Facebook to raise them.
Mhm. To raise them. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
Yeah, I'll add to that too. I 100% agree on needing more resources dumped into it, especially for children. And so what came up for me when you said that was, so my daughter's in therapy. We had to pay for it on our health insurance, but then sometimes insurance companies don't cover the entire cost of therapy, right? And so you end up having to pay some out of pocket. So then it becomes this expense. And when you are underserved individual, underserved community, you may not be able to afford therapy. And
True.
so we know that some of the reason why that, especially in the African American community, why people don't go to therapy is because they don't have access to health care at the same rate as other ethnic groups, right? And so what I thought about was, there's a guidance counselor. I got this email from my child's school that, hey, here's our guidance counselor, singular, for a
Hmm.
school that has 700 plus children,
Hmm.
right? Children who may be experiencing traumas, who need to learn emotional safety, psychological safety. This should be just as sure as they're going to go to PE, they should go to a wellness class. They
I think
should
we
go
lost
to
you
they should
again.
Oh, I don't know why that's happening, and I do apologize, but just as sure
Mm.
as they go to PE, can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
They should be
Mhm.
able to go to a wellness class or have a every child gets at least one session with the guidance counselor or the mental health counselor that's on campus, because while right now we are having the conversation more, we're putting our children in therapy, we have so much this is not going to probably solve itself for two more generations. And so the
Hmm.
more that we can pour into the children today, the more that we do what we're doing right now, but pour into our children and have them to start just being ready to be role models so they don't follow those same generational curses and generational patterns that we experience, then it's only going to get better then. So I'm not saying it can't get better now, but we're just at the beginning of this journey with seeing the statistics, going to therapy, having these conversations, and really just telling folks like you're fine. Like you're good.
Mhm.
Your mental health matters, and you can do something about it. And it's just a start, in my opinion.
Yeah, good point, Candace. And to add to that, uh, when Sharonda was talking about, it needs to be, when you mentioned it, like resources for the school age, it should be a part of their curriculum. Like you
Oh,
need
that would
this
be
to
great.
graduate. Like, you know how they have all the electives? Mental health needs to be one of those requirements in order to graduate. It needs to be in the school
Mm-hmm.
with a passing
Great.
grade, not just going in there to hoo hoo and ha ha,
Mm-hmm.
free period, whatever they call it. Yeah, it needs to be in the curriculum.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel
I
like if
hope
I
you're
a
going
lot
to
of
know,
have
schools.
health there, you should have something concerning mental health.
Yeah.
yes.
They go
And
hand in hand.
they got the coach teaching health, right?
Pretty much.
Bring
Pretty
the
much.
mental health professional in there,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, or the guidance counselor
Hmm.
Yeah.
for that
Yeah.
hour, 20 minutes, however long the class is for that semester.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
it, it needs to be, or remember the show, oh God, Lean on Me. You know how they
Mm-hmm.
back in the day the teacher went to the parents' door. Like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
so and so didn't show up today. Uh,
Man,
if we could
that's
get back to
support.
that where we felt safe,
Yeah.
knocking on people's doors now is a different story. But
But the thing is, they'll send out all these emails though when my sons were in school. If they was tardy to class, if
Mm-hmm.
they
mhm,
missed the
mhm,
class, different stuff like
yep,
that, they would send that
mhm,
out. But why
mhm,
not have, like you said, a therapist there on,
mhm,
working the school, teaching the
mhm.
class, and then if the child is showing any signs, that's when the family sessions come in.
Right,
So if we can get the family sessions in there, because some parents like me, I'm okay with you telling me when I'm wrong. I'm okay
right,
with
right,
you telling me
exactly.
that my child needs something to better
Need
themselves.
something.
You know,
Right.
I'm okay with
Mhm,
that. So if you would have came and said, well, Miss Sharonda, we need to speak to you because your son is doing X, Y, and Z, and I feel like your son needs a little more assistance, a little more therapy, a little more help to help him with that versus saying all the time your child is
Hmm.
acting up.
Right.
Mm.
You know, your child is showing out in class. But what if there's an issue that I haven't really seen that they're seeing at the school?
Yep.
I had my oldest son, we came, what is it? It was called the 504.
Hmm.
And I don't know
Hmm.
if it's still called
Hmm.
504 now, but it
It
was
is. Yep.
504
Yep.
then. And you
Hmm.
were supposed to get recommendations for testing, reading help if you
Hmm.
needed and different stuff like
Yep.
that. Well, he
Hmm.
qualified for that, but wasn't no
Hmm.
one using it.
Wow.
When he go to
Wow.
school, everybody was like, "Oh, well, he doesn't be still, or he can't, does different stuff." And believe it or not, my child was one of these kids that he ended up going. I took him out of regular high school and put him in high school to where he was going on for I think it was like 8 to 11 or 8 to 12,
Hmm.
and he could do
Hmm.
his work while he was there.
Right.
And we found out the smallest thing, that chewing gum and him being in a smaller environment and lesser time,
Set him
he
up
was
for success.
successful.
Yep.
He
Mm.
was successful. Just
Yep.
those three things. So, but if we're
Hmm.
just like you said, if she like Candace said, if you got a guidance counselor with 700 kids, how many of those kids are she really looking at, on
Right.
a weekly basis to be
Hmm.
able to help
Hmm.
them with different things like that to
Hmm.
set
Mm.
them up for
Hmm.
success.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Hmm. Man, if
Deep.
we had a magic wand.
Yeah. I'm like, hopefully the God of all schools is listening to
Right.
this.
Are
It's
listening, right?
like, like, okay. What are we gonna do with these budget dollars? We're gonna put
Right.
them in the schools.
Right.
Somebody
So
with
they
the
trying to take
money. You
away
heard what we
music,
said?
like, yeah. Like they trying to take away music and arts and
Oh
things
my
like
God.
this, like you said, that helps the kids. Like music for me is my therapy. When I'm working, I have
Yes.
my music on. Like
Yes.
your son needs
Yes.
his gum,
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And without my music, I'm like, huh, what? Like I'm all over the place,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but if I have my music, I'm tuned in and I'm zoned, you know. But
Yes,
yeah,
such
I mean
such a
everything
good point.
doesn't work for everybody. And even smaller sessions, smaller classes. He don't need to be there 8 hours. He know what he doing,
Hmm.
right?
Some
With no
people don't.
nap.
But
With
the
no
thing
nap.
is, yes, but the
Right,
thing
right.
is, we got to look at it like the truancy. They'll get us,
Mhm.
okay, they'll want our child to sit up in a classroom or come to
Mhm.
a school every single day. This
Mhm.
kid could be limited to food, they could be limited to
Mhm.
clothing, they could be
Mhm.
limited to hygiene stuff. So we don't actually know why this child is missing class. This child could be
Mhm.
bullied in the class, so they
Exactly.
don't go to the class
Go
every
to
day.
class. Yep.
But you're gonna give me a choice letter. Oh, your child need to be in class. Well, then what if the child doesn't say, "Well, mom, I'm being bullied in the class, so I don't want to go to that class every day." So you're gonna turn and give me a fine for five
Right.
hundred dollars that I probably can't afford to pay, and then
Mhm.
my child is
Mhm.
still getting bullied and tormented every single day going into class. You know,
Hmm.
Exactly. Exactly.
and
Yep.
I had my
Yep.
son when he was in elementary, my
Yep. They'll
youngest
hit you
son,
with that truancy real quick.
Yes.
Yep.
real
Yep.
quick. And
Like they
my
have to
I had
have so many numbers of attendance for them to
yes,
get their funding.
they're funded.
Mm.
So yeah.
We're gonna shuffle the child through so we can get funded.
So we talk about self-care, it's a buzzword these days, but what are some practical self-care tips that can help people manage their mental health, especially, when life gets busy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll
Any
start and
suggestions?
then yeah, for sure. So um, I think we put this.
You-
Are you able to hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah. So what about now? No. All right. I'm gonna try again. Is it just muted or
I can't.
You can hear me, Sharonda?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll just go real quick. Um so self-care. I think when I think about what I thought of self-care years ago, it was get your nails done, get your hair did, go on vacation, all these things that can sometimes come across as recreational. And it's a form of taking care of yourself, so don't get me wrong. Um, but I find self-care for me is doing things daily like meditation, like just sitting there and deep breathing for a period of time. Um, Listening to music, doing something that I love, doing art or making t-shirts with my daughter, like things that allow me to quiet my mind and just relax so that I'm not worrying about the craziness of the world or things like that. So I think self-care, because I think of it from a radical standpoint, it is when your needs and your wants intercept, right? Your needs and your wants intersect, where the things that you need to live a happy and fulfilling life, like eat healthy, exercise, breathe, quiet your mind, you do those things because you need to do them, but then you do them habitually because it's about habits that they now become your wants when they're just your needs. And for me, that's radical self care. Yes, I want to go get a massage because I need my body to be calmed down. I need my body to be felt on. I need some physical touch. It's something I need, but it's also something I want when I do it habitually, right? So self care is I could be juicing, right? Juicing or making smoothies is something that I need for my body. But now I've turned that into this self care activity because I do it so often that now I want to do it. So it becomes radical and more practical for me when you're intersecting your needs and your wants or turning your needs into your wants, if that makes sense. And Nick, I don't know if you could hear me. Sharonda, can you hear me?
Candace, yes, I can hear you. So when you talked about the self care and your needs and your wants, I feel like that a good thing for self care is just taking time out for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whatever it is, whatever it looked like to you, is taking time out for yourself so you can be the
Mm-hmm.
best version of you.
Right.
So I feel like if like you said, the massages, music, going to a certain place, going on a hike, whatever it looks like to you to help you, that's what I feel
Mm-hmm.
like self care is. The
Yeah.
long bath versus you having to do the hustle and bustle of the shower every single day. Well, today
Yeah.
you can just take that long bath and relax and take 15 minutes to yourself extra. That you
Yeah.
only have 5 or 10 minutes with a shower,
Mm.
because you have to do everything else for everyone else. So, whatever it looks like to you to give you a peace of mind, that's what needs to be done.
No, I 100% agree. Because I think sometimes, and that's why I started too with the it's the nails done, hair done, vacation. That's maybe what that person who you heard say that's maybe what they needed. But nobody in this world, we are one of one. Nobody in this world has the same experience, has the same day. Nobody walks exactly the same. Nobody's brain is the same. So we have to define what that is for ourselves. Without this, we are so just plagued by external comparison. I think it's coming up in every question, but we're plagued by it, and it's even it's intercepting in our ability to take care of ourselves because we're trying to do what everybody else is doing and define it the way everybody else is defining it. So I think that's an excellent point.
Because I feel like we do that on a daily. When
Oh
we look
yeah.
at our coworkers and we see how their hair is done, or we see what their nails look like, or we see the clothes that they wear, that's all taken into play. And we're like, oh, okay, I want that. Oh, I want that. But then like I seen a post about the amount how much something costs to wear it, and I'm like, it doesn't matter how much it costs. You need to own it when you wear it. I mean, the way that you rock a Jurassic Park graphic tee, I might rock it differently, and
Hmm.
that's okay. That's
Yeah.
who Sharonda is, and that's who Miss Candace is. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So,
Yeah.
like, social media. wants us. I remember times when my best friend, she used to always just be like pictures, 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 constantly taking pictures of herself, and she was like, "Oh, I have to have the best one. I have to have the best one."
Mhm.
Why? What's wrong? What's wrong with that ugly pose today? What's wrong with that face today? As we get older, what I'm saying, that shouldn't even matter to us. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And one
Mhm.
quote that her mom used to always tell us: "You're getting closer to the other side." So it's time to enjoy the best way you can and however you can, because that day
Mhm.
is gonna come where you might not be able to move your legs the same, your arms the same.
Mhm.
How would you cope with that? Or you get older and we all got to go that way one day. But I'm
Mhm.
saying, let's just do the best that we can to enjoy the little bit that we do have.
Right. Yep.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I
Exactly.
I I agree. It definitely, like I said, I spend a lot of time thinking about the external comparison because I think that's what ends us up in these situations anyway. And I heard a quote that I'll share probably about 2 weeks ago. Shirley Ann, someone who am affiliated with, really dear friend, she said, don't compare your chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 10. So what we see
True.
on social media of where somebody is in their healing journey or the words that they're speaking, or whether it's true or not, what it looks like, we immediately want to compare ourselves and try to outdo, like we're in this unhealthy competition with what we see, but we don't know where their journey started. We don't know if their journey is real. Right, like we don't know. Like, so we, like, I can't be concerned with it. The only thing I have complete, that's why I say I'm the CEO of Candace on Enterprises. I know where my journey is, and I know that I am finally free and living authentically, and it feels good. And I mean, I can look at and see, understand what's going on with others and see that, but I can't compare myself to it, because then we start to live in that land of false narratives again.
False
Mhm.
narratives. Yep.
Yep.
Mhm. Mhm. Exactly. Exactly. I don't have girls, but I have nieces,
Hmm.
and like you said, social media, they're so involved in in looking a certain way, appearing a certain way, and for the likes and all this. And I'm
Hmm.
glad that uh, Instagram now has that option where you can turn it off, numbers or how many likes or whatever they said. So you don't have to see that. You're not comparing yourself to how many likes you get. What is a like?
Hmm.
Like, in real life, like
Yeah.
what is it? What does it mean? It doesn't value or devalue you, you know.
Yes. Yes.
And so I think there probably needs to be a class and mandatory curriculum too.
Yes, Lord. I think,
You
you
know,
bring up such a good point around, like, being willing to celebrate yourself.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
because we're so worried about other people and what they're going to think of them that we don't even take the time out to celebrate yourself. So I
to
do something
themselves,
kind of
yeah.
crazy. Every post I
Hmm.
put on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere I'm at, the first thing I do after I post it is I go like my own post.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
me
care.
too.
I don't care
Yeah,
nothing about I don't even go
who
back
else
to
there?
look at who else liked it. I'm celebrating myself, and I do it because
Yeah,
I know, like, it's just a practice of not
right,
caring what anybody else thinks. If they
right.
get it, they get it. They may not get it for 10 more years. Like, that's
Yeah,
life. Like, but if I
yeah,
know that it was for me and I get it,
yeah. Yep.
then that's all that matters. I'm okay celebrating myself. And
Say to
we are
himself.
we,
Yep.
we struggle doing that, especially as
Mhm.
Black women. We struggle
Mhm.
celebrating ourselves because we allow our humility to outweigh our confidence.
Mhm.
And I
And
Mhm.
think our
so,
confidence has been
yeah,
broken
yeah, yeah,
in some
Mhm.
aspects. Our
Mhm.
confidence has been broken, whether it's relationships we've been in the household. Because I mean,
yes.
if you some people are if they have three sisters and four
Mhm.
brothers, somebody's being compared to somebody.
Somebody, right?
Hmm.
Mhm.
Whether the
Mhm.
brother that plays
So
football and
good.
makes all the touchdowns, or this sister over here is the cheerleader, and this sister
Mhm.
over here wants the natural hair, don't want to be
Mhm.
bothered, don't care about the makeup. and they
Mhm.
asking
Yep.
her what is her problem, so everybody's being compared to everyone,
Mhm. Yep.
in an
Yep.
aspect. And it's sad, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good point
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
on I did an episode yesterday with my sister and she started a coaching business, HBIC coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I commend her because she is her authentic self 100%. And I wish I had that in me that she could. Now, my face may say it, but it'll come out of her mouth
Mhm.
what I'm thinking, right? And so I've always commend her on being like who she is. And, she was, the heavier set of us. It's three of us. I was the darker one of my other two sisters. And so that in itself being the darkest one versus your two, light sisters, people, that's a different thing. Like you said, comparing, well, why are you darker than the rest of your sisters? We have different fathers naturally, right?
Mhm.
But my sister, the middle one, has always been the heaviest,
Mm-hmm.
but she's had the most confidence of all three of us. And
Love it.
with that coaching business, it was funny because we were talking about, crying and getting things out, grief and things like that. And we were making fun because it's like, okay, you got 15 minutes over here to cry, and then after that, you got to be gangster. Like, won't have time. Won't
Mhm.
have time to waste. Like, we got to keep going because there's nobody out there to pick you up.
Nobody's coming.
If you don't
Mm-hmm.
do it for yourself, like you said, if you don't like that button yourself, who gonna do it? You know. And so, yeah, good point. Good point.
Yeah. I think of it as a party. You talk about crying. I don't know if we talked a lot about crying. We did. We talked about it earlier, but it's like a
Mhm.
party. And Brendan Bouchard put it together so good for me, and I put it in my hard drive, and I'm gonna keep saying it. But how long does a party last? Party lasts one night, right? So we can have
Mhm.
pity parties, right? You can cry
Mhm.
it out,
Yeah,
but it should last as long as the party of celebration, right? Like you
celebration.
got to
Mhm.
celebrate, and you also have to allow yourself time to sit in
So,
your feelings. But
mhm.
it comes to an end. But the
To an
issue
end,
is we just
exactly.
don't do it. We just only want to have the celebratory party, and we don't want to
Right.
even engage in the pity party that we sometimes need. So
Yep.
no, I
Yep.
appreciate you. Yeah,
Mhm.
that was you hit the nail on the head with that one.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yep. 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 So yeah, and it goes back to males, again, them not being able to cry or be vulnerable
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
they were taught to hold it in or to be tough and don't cry, and you
Yeah,
skin your knee or you fall off your bike. Oh, tough enough, boy, that ain't nothing,
yeah,
keep going.
yeah,
And no, they are allowed to have that feeling, and like you said, however long it takes, but it comes to an
yeah,
end. Right? We're
absolutely.
not going to sit in it forever.
Yeah.
And we move on. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But you
yeah,
have to
my
acknowledge, okay, I need that time too. With breakups,
yeah,
I was married, I was divorced, and yeah, it took me a minute. It didn't take me the length of the song, but it took me a couple of months.
yeah,
I was down.
yeah,
I didn't want to talk to nobody. I didn't want to see nobody. I was in my bed crying.
yeah,
But
Mhm.
then, you look back at them two boys you got to take care of. Like, you know what? I need to get up off my butt,
yeah,
because they looking at me, like you said. They seeing what I'm doing, how, the resilience in her, is putting the resilience in them, the fight in them.
so
Well,
true.
my mom bounced back up. She got it. So what I'm going through, this ain't nothing,
Yeah,
you
Mhm.
know, you know,
We just
and
want them. We want our young men to, like when I talk to my sons, I tell them now, especially now that I understand mental health way, 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 a lot better. You know, it's okay to hurt.
mhm,
It's okay to be heartbroken.
yeah,
It's okay to be in that dark spot, but slowly. Don't rush it, because when
mhm,
you rush it, to me, even like myself in the past, I've rushed a breakup. Once you
mhm,
break up, you're like, oh, I got to get over it. I got to get over it. But it's not healthy for you.
yep,
When it,
mhm,
I think I heal I healed the best after a breakup this year,
Mhm.
because I took the time and said, you know what, I got to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I got to
Mm.
go through it.
Yep.
And I had a friend of mine saying, it's not on your time. It's not on your time. You got to go through it. But
Amen.
in the past, I'll be like, okay, I got to go through it. I got to get up. I got to get moving. It wasn't about going to the next relationship. It was just
Mhm.
about to get, I have to get up. I have things
Mhm.
to do.
Mhm.
But
Right.
like
Yeah.
you said,
Mhm.
sometimes, I mean, you probably heal better from laying in your bed crying days
Laying in the
on end.
bed. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
you know,
Mhm.
because you
Mhm.
actually went through it. And a lot of us,
Mhm.
that's what we don't do. Whether it's
Mm-hmm.
relationship, whether we get fired from a job, whether it's a
Mhm.
friendship, you know,
Yeah.
people think like, oh, you've been friends with somebody for years and y'all stop being friends. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah, it means
Yeah.
something. A
It
friendship
does.
breakup is hard, you
It's
know?
hard. Yes.
So the thing
Yes.
is, it's just better now. I know that it's better to go through it, not rush
Mhm.
anything, just go through the pain. So when you come on the
Mhm.
other side, it's clarity. It's clear and
So good.
clarity.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
And
good.
to a point that you were saying about like bouncing back in relationships. Yeah, the relationship ended, and then you have friends out there that are, hey, I met this guy, this for you, and hook up, you're done. You don't need to be in the house soaking. I'm not ready for another relationship right now. Like we just broke up 5 minutes ago. Like what is this? Like let me get my brain right. Like let
Yep.
me look at me for me. Like, sometimes, a lot of us get into relationships and we lose ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you break up and like you said, that downtime gets you to back, oh, you know what? I love to color. Let me start coloring today. You know what? I like to watch or drink this wine or watch this TV show. Like getting back to know yourself and what you like, because you wasn't yourself in this relationship. And so
Mm-hmm.
having that time to ourselves to get to know us again, what we like and what we don't
Mm-hmm.
like, that self-care, I think is important too. But like you said, sometimes you have those, people, oh, you need to be in a relationship. Oh, you need to find somebody. No, I'm
Mm-hmm.
fine.
I think more people, when it's like that, I think they're the people that love differently. But when you
Hmm.
truly, truly love someone,
Hmm.
truly love someone, you don't get over them overnight.
Right. Yep.
You don't. What, like I said, whether it's a friendship or relationship, a
Yep.
family member,
A
you and
family
a family
member. Yep.
member might have different, odds and whatever. But if you truly love them, it takes a minute to bounce back.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does.
I love to add very quickly, because that's such a. I wasn't sure if I was going to come back on the crying or the relationships. I think I'm a.
I know. I was
I was
trying to
like,
take
I
notes.
got
I was
something to say
like,
about
let
that.
me say this part.
I'm over here taking notes. Like, oh, that was good. That was
Good.
good.
I know.
Uh, yeah, so the relationship piece is the one I'll kind of chime in on. So you said it. Sometimes we get in these relationships and we lose ourselves in others. And I mean, the topic is mental health. That's something that plagues us from a mental health perspective, is that we are not focused on ourselves. And I think what happens is we learn how to not love ourselves, or in that process of being in a relationship with somebody else, you fall out of love with yourself. And so then when you get out of that relationship, going into another, you haven't allowed, and this, when I say you, I'm talking about me. You haven't allowed yourself the time to go and fall back in love with yourself, so that you can show people how to love you. So
Love.
God loves us so
Mhm.
Yeah.
we can love ourselves, and people are only going to love you the way you love
Love
yourself,
this.
right? So if you don't take
Amen.
that time to reflect, I had to do this. I got divorced in 2020, and I could have hopped back in a relationship, but I realized as soon as I got out of that relationship, I was like, I've actually never loved myself. Let me spend
Hello.
a few years
Years.
figuring out what the heck radical self-love is.
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
quite honestly, I mean, I've never loved myself more. I mean, I know you see my glow. I've never loved myself more. And now I'm more equipped to go into a relationship radiating that self-love. So whoever loves me, whether it's a friend or it's, my boyfriend, my life partner, he's gonna be like, well, I can't love. The energy is the way it is. They're
Right.
gonna bounce off. They're gonna bounce off this energy if they not ready to love me the same or greater than I love myself. But we
Mhm.
interrupt that sometimes by trying to go and seek for that love from somebody else,
Mhm.
and then we forget and don't even know how to love ourselves. So that's what I wanted to add there, because that's how we end up in those relationships where where they don't respect us. Anyway, that's how I ended up in mine,
Mhm.
all of them. I didn't love myself. He
Mhm.
could see it.
Yep.
So he
Yep.
treated me the way I was treating myself.
Exactly.
And when
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
love yourself, you treat yourself
Yourself.
like
Yep.
God made you. We're fearfully, wonderfully made. We are
Mhm.
royalty.
Yep.
We're his favorite. You got to treat yourself that way,
Exactly.
and that comes with
Because I
love.
feel like we need the validation from the person that we're
Mm-hmm.
dating,
Mm.
but when they don't give the validation, we're like, okay, this is okay. But it's not okay, because when you're with someone, you're supposed to support them. You know,
Mhm.
goals, life, children, whatever. You're supposed to support them. So
Mhm.
when, like you said, Candace, the way you treat yourself is like how they treat you. You might not
Mhm.
look at it as thinking you're treating yourself bad, but you really are. If you don't love yourself, you're treating
Mhm.
yourself badly. And
Mhm.
I'm so glad you said that, because I felt like, yeah, I have all the material things,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
clothes,
Mhm.
the whatever I want to do and however I want to move and go, but truly deep down, from all the heartbreak and the pain and the
Mhm.
dysfunction, did I truly love myself?
Mhm.
And I
Mm.
Mhm.
didn't. And that's
Mhm.
hard to figure
Mm.
out
Mhm.
and admit.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Then you gotta
Yes.
forgive yourself once you realize that you didn't
Once you
love yourself. You're like,
right.
dang, it's
I'm
another
so
pity
sorry.
party underway.
I
I
know.
know, right?
Right. Right. So I know we're talking about mental health and relationships, but I want to make a point when Sharonda was speaking about, we all talked about like losing ourselves in the relationship. Sometimes it has to do with if you were brought up with one parent. I was brought up in a single parent household. And so I missed all that love, whatever we're supposed to get from that father figure, right? And so I went into those relationships looking for that, not realizing that ain't what I need.
Mm-hmm.
Daddy love and relationship love are two different things, right?
Right.
And so I think a lot of women go into relationships because, they were brought up by that single parent, that single mother. They didn't have that love from their father,
Mm.
and they look for it in that relationship. And so that's us again losing ourselves, in the relationship because we're trying to paint this person out to be, I don't want to say like a father figure, but
Mhm. Oh, it's absolutely.
something. I can't think of the word right now, but um some type of figure, authoritative figure,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so because of that authoritative figure, we go back into the inner child. And so we lose us again, being quiet, being shut down, being, don't say anything, keep everything in the household. And so I think that stems, from that piece. Again, I'm not a professional, y'all, but just my thoughts.
But I mean, that's true, because
Mhm.
in my household, I was raised with my grandmother, aunt, and my
Mhm.
mom.
Mhm.
And my mom was very strong, very,
Mhm.
very strong. I mean, and I feel like the hard love that she showed, that I've seen her in relationships, to be honest,
Mhm.
is what I've gravitated to in my relationships,
Mhm.
versus
Mhm.
being loving and caring and, so dainty and,
Mhm.
listening to everything that a man tells me to do and following his
Mhm.
lead and different stuff like that. I've
Mhm.
always been taught to You need to make sure you have your own. You need to make
Mhm.
sure that you're not dependent on anyone. You need to make sure
Mhm.
you're independent. What if he
Mhm.
leaves, and what are you
Mhm.
gonna do? And this, in all these aspects, you're thinking like, okay, I'm doing all of this, but the men are not staying. Sis, what happened
Right.
here? You
Right.
know.
Right.
So, and then with my
Like I
step,
had my checklist, Grandma.
I
What happened?
it's like, okay, I'm doing all this, but I mean, I've been a strong person. I was married I was
Mhm.
married to my high school sweetheart. We had three
Mhm.
children together and different things like that. But it wasn't mentally, it wasn't for me to just stick there and be okay with that basic life,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I've
Mhm.
always had big goals. I've always, wanted to see the
Right.
world. I always wanted to do
Mhm.
all these things. And
Mhm.
in that marriage, I wasn't gonna be able to do that. I
Mhm.
didn't see
Mhm.
it the first 10 years we was together. So what was going to
Mhm.
change in the next 10,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know? So
Yeah.
my thing is, I still wish I would have, I'm not saying dummy down yourself, but
Mhm.
also it's okay to be treated like a lady. It's
Mm,
okay to be loved. It's okay
mm,
that everything is not right there and he's not doing every single thing he needs to do, you know? Because we got to think about this too. What about his
Right.
mental health? How was he
Exactly.
raised? What is going
Mhm.
on with him? So I'm
Mhm.
not saying to take negative things from a man, abuse, whether it's
Mhm.
mental, emotional, physical. Don't take that from them, but
Mhm.
also be open to listening to what's going on in the relationship together.
Yep.
Because I seen my mom later on in years, and my stepdad, he passed away. He was only with us like 5 years, and
Mhm.
he passed
Mhm.
away. But to see how he treated my mom in those 5 years,
Mhm. Mhm.
that's
that's
the
it.
way a good
That's
man
it.
treats a woman.
Mhm. Mhm.
You
Hmm.
understand
Mhm.
me? Like, she
Mhm.
didn't have to say, "Where's the bill money?" It was, "Sweetheart," it was, "Baby, here is such and such, sweetheart, here is such and such." He wasn't big on um physically going out and buying all these gifts, but he made it, known that the bills need to be paid. He didn't mind. This was way back in 1995, 94. He
Mhm.
wanted to dress like everybody's dressing like their mate now. That's the way they used to go out, back then. And
Love
I
it.
mean, I would see that and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want this in a relationship. I want this in a marriage, because
Hmm.
I seen the healthy part. It wasn't a long
Right.
Hmm.
time because we lost him. And I think
Mhm.
that grief hurt me and my mom in a
Hmm.
way,
Mhm.
that was hard to rebuild from. But I'm
Yeah.
Mhm.
saying he truly showed me how a man was supposed to act with a lady, opening the
Mhm.
doors and, going out to eat, taking her places. It was about them and us being family oriented and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So, I mean, but I had the strong part way more than I had the dainty,
Mhm.
let the man kind of take care of the
Mm,
household part. So,
yeah.
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
I love that, Sharonda. Um, I want to share really quickly a personal encounter I had to answer your question, Nicole. So I remember when I was going through impasse in my marriage, and my grandmother, I just
Mhm.
had a son. So my grandmother, God rest her soul, she was here. Well, we were in
Mhm.
Houston at the time, but she was there with us, and I was crying like, because I knew I needed to like get out of this marriage.
Mhm.
And she
Mhm.
said to me, she said, you know, you know, don't leave them because
Mhm.
you might end up with somebody worse.
Mhm.
And she
Mhm.
said, you got to pick your struggle. So, just take what he doing and you're going to be
Mhm.
fine. Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
Didn't even, I knew it was crazy. I knew it was wrong, but I was like, woo, the now realizing the detriment of a statement like that, but it's so
Yeah.
common. And
Common.
so
Mhm.
to answer your question around, it depends on how you where you were raised. I don't know if single parent versus married parent. I don't know if
Mhm.
that's where the difference is.
Mhm.
Because I
Mhm.
also grew up in a single parent home, But
Mhm.
most of my poor expectations of relationships came from how the men who were in my life,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So when I think back on it, or now as a single parent, now it's discharged to, okay, I'm a single parent, but now I got to make sure I have men in my child's life who are
Mhm.
going to be role models to them
Role
and who are going
models.
to help me along this journey, so it can still happen as a single parent. But on the other side of it,
Other side.
for people in a two-parent household, a lot of mental health challenges come from you watching your mother stay in a relationship she should not have stayed in. So now that becomes normal to you,
To
right?
you. Yeah. Yeah.
Or actually, it's the way your dad, who lived in your house in your two-parent home, the way he talked to you, or the
Mhm.
way he affirmed you on the positive side of it. I have a best
Mhm.
friend who is probably one of the most confident people I know. And
Mhm.
she, the what I've been able to deduce from just listening to her is
Mhm.
her father affirmed her
Mhm.
so well,
Mhm.
and not the same way every time, like, oh, you're beautiful. Cause then we start to
Mhm.
accept just the you're beautiful. Cause we need a little
Mhm.
more than that. But she
Mhm.
talks about how he changed it up every time. You can do
Mhm.
anything you want
Mhm.
to do. You're so
Mhm.
beautiful. I love the way you do
Mhm.
this. Always finding different ways. And then that then shaped her expectations in relationships. Again, that's a two-parent household, but it was more about
Mhm.
the way those parents are governing themselves in that relationship, and then the
Mhm.
way they treat you and create psychological safety in that household, to where you
Mhm.
can go and enter into these relationships as an adult and be looking for that thing, to your point, either to fill that gap or to find
Mhm.
that thing that you know you deserve because that's what you got when you were older. So I think it
Right.
just, it's an interesting dynamic, but I don't know if the
Dynamic. Right.
single parent
Right.
is better
Right.
or worse than the two parent, because
Mhm.
I've seen it go real bad in them two
Go
parent
both
households.
ways.
My grandmother, stay in the marriage, girl. He good. You gonna have a worse, no, ma'am. That's not cool. Like, that's not it.
Mhm. It's not always green
But
on the
that's
other
what they
side,
did.
man. But that's what
Yes.
they did exactly.
That's
They
what they
stayed
did.
until the end.
Hmm.
Yeah.
They stayed to
Yeah.
the end.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. He
the
got me a house. He got me
Yep.
some food on the table. He a good
hmm
Hmm.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was with every other
Yeah.
woman, but it was okay.
Man.
It was okay. Yep. He come home every
It's
night.
Hmm. But it was okay.
It was okay.
I think it's that meme that says Esther would have left Sylvester if she had social media. She had social media and called this cheating behind. Look, we got social media
Yeah.
now, so they get exposed faster, you know.
Oh yeah.
Right. Right.
Back then, it was when the child outside of the marriage was
When the child.
born, and then you knew
Yep.
that your like grandpa cheated on grandma. Yeah, you have an aunt
Mhm.
somewhere else now.
Yep. 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 Or who you thought was your grandmother is really your mother. You
Yeah.
know.
Oh,
Mm,
that's even deeper.
They
mm,
send
That's
him
even deeper.
away, and or the sister raise him, or it's yeah,
mm-hmm,
yeah.
mm-hmm.
And then you become an adult and you realize, you know,
Your
you
whole
was really
life
my
is not
mama
your
this
life.
whole time. Yeah,
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
that's painful.
yep, 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 yep. So, ladies, we here at an hour and 17 minutes,
Oh,
and
this is good.
I have really enjoyed you guys, and maybe we can have a part two on this. And like I said, there's so many variations of mental health. We can go down from relationships, parenting, everything in the world. But I would like to have you ladies on again in the future. We can do a part two. But I appreciate you ladies for tonight. Again, please tell me your social medias where people can find you. And I will also post it under the link once it uploads. I'll send you guys the link and we can share.
Thank you
Awesome.
so much.
Thank
I
you so
really
much for
enjoyed it.
having us.
Hmm. Yes,
Yes.
me too. Me too. Good
Yes.
conversation.
It
These are
really
Very
was.
healing
important.
conversations, healing
Yes,
conversations, and I'm
healing
more than happy
conversation.
to continue. This is what needs to be modeled, the open
Hmm.
discussion. So
Yes.
thank you for
Yeah.
having me on today.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Sharonda, it was so nice to meet you.
You
I
too,
Yes.
learned
Candace.
so
Yes.
much.
I hate that
Yes.
your camera was kind of freezing, and I'm like every time
I
she
know. I
gets
was
ready to
like
say
trying to
something
listen.
really
Like
good.
I know. I lean in
Hopefully,
like.
I know.
Hopefully it comes out better on the video.
On the
Hopefully it
video,
comes out on
yeah,
the video.
yeah,
Yeah.
Cause
yeah, yeah.
you have some great points, and I was like, every
Yes,
time she get
You
ready to say a
too.
great point, it
yep,
freezes.
Oh no.
yep,
Well, part two, I'm gonna give me a second internet box or something. I don't know what
yes.
happened, but hopefully it comes out. Hopefully it comes out in the recording crystal clear. But it was such a pleasure.
Awesome, awesome.
Yes, it
It was a
was.
pleasure. And just another tip before you guys leave, make sure you hit the end button like we're on a Zoom call.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it'll only get pieces of you speaking. So just FYI. But
Okay.
Okay.
again, thank you, ladies, and you have a good night.
Uh huh. You
Thank you.
too.
You
Bye bye.
too.
Uh-huh. Bye bye.